Hey everybody, welcome to another video in my Intro to HTML series. In this video we're going to talk about images, putting pics on the page. In a previous video you saw how to make links, absolute and relative links. Well, you know what? Using images is very similar. Images can have absolute or relative references just like hyperlinks can. We're linking to resources that exist either on our computer or on the server that the file is on or somewhere on the internet. Let's get started. We're going to start with an absolute reference to an image. I'm going to put an image, I'm going to use the same file that we used before. The file that we had a header with an H1, has an article with an H2 and some links in it as you saw before. It's got 3 paragraphs and it closes. And we've got 2 more articles with H2s and paragraphs. Okay? And we've got our footer with some paragraph text in it as well. This is the same file that we've been building all along. If we look at it in the browser, it looks just like this. Great. Let's add an image. The image tag, of course, is img. An image tag does not have an opening or closing. The image tag is one of those self-closing tags, or what is known as the void tag, or sometimes called the empty tag. The void tag just shows up in one spot. You don't do something like this. That's invalid syntax. Though I do see people do that from time to time, it's not the way it's done, and your page won't be valid HTML markup. So we want to get that the heck out of there. We just want img space slash, and then that's it, okay? If I save this and refresh in the browser, we're not going to get anything. An actual image does not show up there. So we've got to do something to make this an image. All right, let's do this. We've got to put the source attribute, src, gets quotes. Now here's one thing that I always do, and lots of people do this accidentally, scr. You might find yourself trying to figure out, why doesn't my image work? I've got the tag in there, I've got the image src, and then I've got the reference in there, but it's not working. Just make sure that you avoid typos. This is one of the most common typos that I see. src, when I typed that in, it has some syntax highlighting. It'll highlight red. scr will not. It'll just be black. That's not a valid attribute. Attributes are always going to have the red syntax highlighting. All right, src attribute is where we are going to set the reference to the image. I'm going to find an image. Let's see, what do I want to look for? I want to look for internet. Go to images, and here's an image for internet. I'm going to view image, error, no fair. I'm going to go to this one here, view image, and there we go, we've got our image. This is the image that I'm going to use. This is an image that somebody else posted up on the internet. It's at goldenrule.org, WP content, uploads, 2016-04, internet.jpg. That's my URL. That's the link to this image. That's where this image exists on the internet. It is what we would call the absolute link or the absolute reference. I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to paste it into the src. So there we go. I've got my URL right there. Save it. Check it in the browser. Bang! My image shows up. Wow, that's really huge. It's got some problems. We can address those problems at another time. But that's a really big image. So I've got that in there. I use an absolute reference. Now, a relative reference. I'm going to find another image. I'm going to look at maybe smaller images. And here we go. I've got this one right here. View image. And I'm going to save this one. Right-click, save image as. And I want to save it in the same directory where I have my HTML, which was Dropbox 1020, HTML files, new videos, unit 1, and I'm just going to give it another name. It says internet-of-things_0. That's a long, complex name, so I'm just going to rename it internet-pic. Internet-pic, and save it. I do not want to enter, like, I don't want to put .jpeg on the end or .png. The browser is going to add that file extension to it when I save it. I don't do anything except for type a name. Keep the names as simple as possible. Save. Now, if I show in folder, you're going to see that it exists in the same directory as my HTML. This is my HTML, lesson1_new. This is my file. They need to be in the same directory. Well, that's technically not true. I could make another directory and then make an absolute or make a relative path to it. But for now, for these early lessons, we need to make sure that the image is in the same directory as the HTML. Then all I have to do is image src and then reference the file name exactly. It's internet-pic. Sometimes what I do is I go to properties and just copy the name like this. And I have to know what file type it is. It's a PNG file, and it says .png right there. So I'll paste it in, .png. I have to make sure that I spell this exactly correct and that I have the exact file extension. If I don't, it's not going to work. Save it, refresh it in the browser. There we go, it showed up. All right, so I've got two images in my page. One image uses the absolute link, or the absolute reference. In other words, I'm linking to the absolute place on the internet. And the other one has the relative reference. In other words, I'm referencing the file name that's relative to the file that I'm currently working in. In other words, it's relative to the position of my HTML file in my directories. Now we saw this image had a problem. It's way too big. It's bursting out of its container. This can be a problem, and I want you to avoid this problem. One way to do that, and this is going to be it's going to be a really clunky way of doing it. It's not always going to be the best way of doing it, but we can set the sizes of image in our CSS. Okay? I'm going to select image. So I'm in my style sheet, just so you know. Style type, text CSS. I'm going all the way down to the bottom. I'm selecting image, putting my brackets in, and I'm going to do this. Width, colon, semicolon, 100%. What this says is that all images will always be 100% width of their containing element. In other words, the thing that they're inside of, it'll take up 100% of the space. If I look at my HTML, my images exist within the article. They're nested inside of the article. Get a little white space in here so we can see them better. Image, image. You can see that they're inside of the article. The article closes right there. This means that when I set width to 100%, these images will take up 100% of the available width of that article. Some images might get scaled up and some might get shrunk down depending on how wide the article is. This isn't always the best solution, and we're going to talk about other solutions in future videos, but this is one to make sure that these images work for now. I'll refresh it, and there we go. It shrunk this down so that it takes up 100%. Now, you might notice that I only set the width. I didn't set the height and width. The reason is that if I set just the width, it'll shrink down the height proportionally. In other words, it won't squish it and keep the height the same as it was. It'll make sure the height scrunches down proportionately so that the image does not get stretched tall or stretched wide. So just set the width only and set it to 100%. Or if I wanted to, I could do something like this. 30%, because I only want images to take up 30% the width of the container. And you'll notice now I've got two of them sitting side by side. Images sit side by side next to each other, and if they take up too much space for a line, they flow down to the next line. That's the way images work. All right, so we've seen how to make images. We've seen how to make absolute and relative references for images, and we've seen how to set their size. In future videos, we're going to use something called a figure to put these images in like a little image card or image box that will contain text. Thanks for watching.